Hi gang, Rob here. It's the evening of 16 February 2014, and in tonight's video I need your help with something. I got a knife in for sharpening last week, which I just got to, by the way, and I didn't want to make this video until after I had finished sharpening it and doing my clean and lubrication and washer polish operation on the inside, because I wanted to make sure I brought you this video with sort of all the information I could. And I'm not going to mention the name of my customer, and not going to mention the source from which he purchased this knife. He bought it used. And I want you to look at some things. This is, of course, a Benchmade 940. Or is it? This is my customer knife in my right hand, and this is my knife in my left. I'm quite certain mine is real. It's been to Benchmade. You guys know that story. And the characteristics that I'm going to point out as differences on this knife, my knife, are extremely consistent with all other green-handled, satin-bladed 940s I've ever handled. So the differences I'm going to show you, this knife is clearly the different one, the one that is not like the others. So I don't know whether this knife in my right hand is a genuine Benchmade or not. The reason I'm doing this video is to point out some differences and to ask for the benefit of the experience of my viewers and subscribers to shed some light on this. So let's first talk about what is different between this knife and this knife. First of all, and I think even in a camera, a difference in color of the handle is pretty apparent. My knife, the knife that's now on top, is more of an OD, an olive drab, or a ranger green. The knife here on the bottom in my right hand is almost a forest green. I'll try to get my hands out of the way so you can see that maybe a little more clearly. Okay, that's difference number one. Number two is inconsequential. Neither of these knives have the original clip. Mine is a Parkerized split arrow clip, factory Benchmade. The other 940 has the deep carry factory Benchmade clip like you would find on an Adamas. That's not a difference worth noting. Next, I want you to look at the axis bar. I'll try to come in here close so you can see. Look at the way the center pin and the thumb stud are oriented. In the real, or the one we know is real, that center pin diameter seems to be smaller and is more recessed into the thumb stud. The center pin in the one in my right hand appears to be a little larger diameter and is almost flush. And it's the same on both sides. Okay, and let's move on. I will say this, the hardware appears to be the same on both knives, except for that one item. Thumb stud and the blade is the same. Now I want to get to some really interesting areas. Take a look at the Benchmade logo, the butterfly logo on both knives. My knife here on the bottom, or in my left hand, customer knife on top. I think you can see that the etching is darker on the customer knife. It appears to be slightly larger, and where the word Benchmade is printed on the knife we know is real, my knife on the bottom, the word Benchmade is above the grind line. On the customer knife, it's below the grind line. And as we come to the other side of the knife, now the genuine, or we know genuine knife, is on top. Again, the Osborne logo, darker and larger on the customer knife, In fact, the center of the Osborne logo is almost touching the edge of the knife, where there's a good 1/8 of an inch clearance on the factory knife. The location of the S30V steel designation is different. Again, on the customer knife, darker, closer to the top. The last thing that I want to point out is the blade finish. On my knife, although it is apparent to the studied observer that Benchmade does apply a really light stone wash after the satin finishing, the satin is still prevalent. Grind lines are still quite visible. In the customer knife, what you see is a stone wash. If you look really closely, you can make out the grind lines from the satin, but if you looked at this knife, you'd say that's a stone wash blade. If you looked at this one, you'd say that's a satin blade. Completely different. I will tell you, after sharpening this steel, it behaves like S30V. After having this knife apart and back together and using it, it behaves like a Benchmade 940. It's definitely different. I just need you guys to help us out. Tell me if you've seen this color variant, whether you know anything about it, why the style of the access bar stud might have changed. Just looking for insight, guys. Weigh in the comments, send me a PM, and I'll pass the information along. And we need to know this. If it's not a real Benchmade, we need to share this information and figure out what's going on. Thanks for your help. Grace to you and peace from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. And remember, the Word is sharp.